Let me welcome, though, Reverend Patrick McAndrew. Welcome, Patrick. Around campus this week, we've gotten a chance to get a little bit better acquainted with Reverend Patrick. We present you and welcome you.
Thank you.
And I've learned some things that aren't in your helpful little information brochure. Patrick is what we call around here a person with a learner's heart. Although he was ordained in 1997 by Unity Worldwide Ministries, he has continued training and education since then and been certified in quite a number of modalities, practices, and trainings. John Savage Leadership Course for Church Administration and Leadership. He trained with Dr. John Gray, Mars versus Venus, and a peacemaking course called Be Peace. And there's a fourth one. Oh, a healing touch. He does energy work. He's about to be certified in that next month. So he keeps in that delicious process of staying abreast of current. I've also learned, Patrick, that you love to swim and hike.
Yep.
I think Hawaii would be a great place to enjoy some of that activity. Yeah.
Right.
We welcome you today. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Well, I say aloha. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha. Or as I would say in Oklahoma, namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Light in me greets the light in you. I invite you to look at somebody close to you and say namaste. Namaste. Well, Ralph thought his wife was losing her hearing. And not quite sure what to do, he called up his family doctor and asked for guidelines on what they might do. Well, the doctor told him there was a really easy plan to figure out how to follow through on it. That he should stand about 40 feet away and in a conversational tone, ask her a question. And if he doesn't get a response, try 30 feet, then 20 feet, then 10 feet, until you get a response. Well, Ralph had a perfect opportunity that night. His wife was in the kitchen cooking dinner, and he was in the den, about 40 feet away. And he called out, "Honey, what's for dinner?" There was no response. So he moved a little bit closer, about 30 feet away, and he called out, "Honey, what's for dinner?" No response. And then he moved a little bit closer into the dining room, and he called out, "Honey, what's for dinner?" No response. So he moved into the entryway, into the kitchen, and he called out, "Honey, what's for dinner?" No response. So he walked up right behind her and said, "Honey, what's for dinner?" His wife was a little bit irritated at this time, and she turned around in frustration and looked at Ralph and said, "Ralph, for the 5th time, chicken." Well, sometimes our experienced life can be just like Ralph. We remain so focused on what we believe to be wrong and what needs to be fixed, and trying to figure out different ways to fix that problem, that we miss the miracle, the wonder, the beauty that is present within that moment. And when we miss that connection and the deeper interconnection that goes with it, we begin to experience the bumps and the bruises of life, and life begins to spin out of control. We experience chaos and turmoil, and everything just begins swirling out of control until we reach a crisis point. I don't know if anybody here has ever had, that experience where they feel like everything in their life is just out of control. Have you? Right? Yeah? Right? Well, Emily Cady, author of Unity's foundational textbook, Lessons in Truth, talks about this crisis point and the need to listen to the message that it has to share with us. So in 1903, Emily wrote, "Sometime, somewhere, every human being must come to himself. Having tired of eating the husk, he will arise and he will go home to his Father. It is expression of divine law, of the law of love, the law of all good. Man who is first living in that animal selfish part of himself will go through a series of various processes of spiritual evolution and will come to a place where he will gladly bow to that physical part of himself and rise up into the Father. Somewhere on our journey of consciousness, we will come to a place where we will come to that place, bowing to our spiritual self. Everyone, sooner or later, will come to this point of awakening. Well, I remember the first time this happened to me, and I say first time because I believe that we actually go through a series of these crisis points as we evolve from one level of consciousness into another and then into another. But I remember very clearly the first time it happened to me. You see, I had been struggling with my work in the restaurant industry where I had been employed for 21 years. Food service is really a gift for me that naturally comes in a multitude of ways. And, I learned some very incredible secrets about food in a way it just evolve in the many different wonderful places that I had worked. But the food service as a career had these crazy 80-hour work weeks and many, many angry people, my bosses. And they were quite demanding, and they yelled a lot, and they paid little attention to the success that our restaurants found. And they paid little attention to the time that their managers and their employees invested into the business. They shared little encouragement. It was truly like working with that chef in Hell's Kitchen. You know the one I'm talking about? That's what my life was like. It felt demeaning, and I had lost my passion for the work. One of my joys was actually talking with and helping the customers. And that's when it happened. Late one night, my bartender disappeared into the back and to get a few needed items. And John, a longtime customer, called me over, and he needed his nightcap and Jack Daniels on the rocks. Easy enough, so I jumped behind the bar and I poured him the drink and I talked to him a few minutes and then I went back to my work. And a few minutes later, as I was standing at the door, he bid me goodnight, went out and got into his brand new big green machine, and then he sped out of the parking lot, peeling into the main street and disappeared. And just as his car left my side, I heard the screeching of tires and the thunderous sound of shattering metal and breaking glass. John had run on a red light and was broadsided by another vehicle and died instantly. That was it. That was it. I was overwhelmed with his death and what I believed to be my part in it. I was overwhelmed with my work environment. That was it. So I quit my job and I quit the restaurant industry. I didn't have any idea what I was going to do. You see, I had a college degree, but working in restaurants was the only thing that I knew. What was I going to do with myself? What was I going to do within life, especially when I was feeling such pain? Well, after a few days of sitting in the solitude of my suburban Chicago condo, I decided I needed to get outside, go do something. And then a few hours later, I found myself sitting on the shore of this small lake. It was so beautiful, and I sat and marveled of what a beautiful day it was. And it was in the mid-80s, and there were these northern geese swimming on the lake not very far away. That moment was so beautiful, so peaceful, calm, and serene. It was everything my life was not. I missed my old life back in Virginia as I sat there. where I was raised, and I would be able to go out and walk through the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains or go out along the shore of the Atlantic Ocean whenever I felt their call. They were far, far away from me, but not just in my physical reality, but in how I experienced life. You know, as I sat alone on the shore of that small lake, I just closed my eyes and I breathed in the breath. Breathe in a deep breath. And I said, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? Please help me. What is life supposed to be like? What am I to do? How can I experience the things that I hold dear, especially when my heart hurts so badly? God, please help me." And I just sat there with my eyes closed, breathing in that breath. And then a very strange thing happened. I was able to see the grass around me and the lake and all these things, even though my eyes were closed. And then all of a sudden my vision went deeper, and I was able to see in the grass and into the geese, and I could see them all at a cellular level. And there was this glowing, moving, sacred energy that was moving in everything around me. Really didn't have any idea what was going on. And I breathed in a deeper breath, and I began to look inside myself, and I saw that glowing, vibrating, sacred energy flowing through my cells, through my heart, through my lungs, and moving in the blood within me, coursing through my vein. And then as I breathed in that breath, I experienced a sense of oneness with everything around me. And it was that glowing, vibrating, vibrant energy that was somehow tying everything together. And I truly didn't have any idea what was going on, because I didn't know anything about metaphysics or, the spiritual dimension or any of the disciplines that is taught, like meditation and visualization and prayer. I didn't understand any of that. But I did know something extraordinary was happening. I was experiencing a miracle, a life that had always been there, right there before my eyes, even though I had never seen it or experienced anything like it before. It was then that I realized what I loved about the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Atlantic Ocean shoreline, where I grew up. The inner beauty that I felt looking at them, the peacefulness, the serenity, it was that unrealized presence of that glowing, vibrating, sacred energy that was moving through me. I could feel it moving within me. And I had been projecting it out there, onto the mountains, onto the ocean, and everything that I could see out there. These two back-to-back experiences served as a turning point within my life, which opened me up to a whole new way of being. That night at the bar was a 2x4 experience, if you know what I mean. It hit me right upside the head and caused me finally let go of what I clung on so tightly, even though I knew I didn't want it. It caused me to allow to open up what was about to flow in, a mystical experience I had sitting by that lake. Perhaps you've heard of the saying, when you get to your wit's end, you'll find that God lives there. That's what happened to me a little over 28 years ago. A few weeks later, I really surprised my wife by doing something that we hadn't done in the 5 years of our marriage. Up at that point, go to church. Right? You see, And it's something I hadn't done in 18 years prior to that, because I was raised Catholic and I really struggled with the theology that I was raised with. I knew it wasn't part of what I needed or wanted. But the church that I went to, Unity in Chicago, turned out to be the place that would nurture me and allow me to question the ideas I was presented and then take them deeper and deeper into a mystical side of this reality that we call life. Like the time I was exploring in Unity School's huge metaphysical library. Y'all been there, right? It's so extraordinary. And I was able to go into the archives, and I began digging through notes, and I found some notes by Charles Fillmore that he had written out after a series of repetitive dreams that he couldn't get out of his head. And this happened in the early 1890s. And these dreams, he could somehow see inside a molecule, and he would be able to see the atom within it. And that atom within it was immersed in this moving, glowing, vibrant, sacred energy. You know, at that time, they didn't even have microscopes that could see inside a molecule. And then all of a sudden, he could see, inside what would be called an atom. And he would see this moving, glowing, sacred energy flowing through it. And then he could be able to see what would be called protons and neutrons and ringing phones, right? And 7 strands of something. And he saw them all immersed in this glowing, vibrating, sacred energy, right? God's calling. And after he went through this for some time, after a few weeks, he finally realized that this moving, glowing, sacred energy was God. The substance of life, a living, stirring, moving field of energy that permeates and saturates every living thing. Everything we see out there and everything we feel and know and hear. Just as the Apostle Paul wrote about in Acts 17:28. People will long for God. In fact, they'll even grope for God, although God is never very far away from any one of us, for it is in God that we live, move, and have our being. It's in God that we live, move, and have our being. A few years ago, I came across the writings of Pelagus, a 4th century Celtic monk, right, who shared the very same thoughts in a slightly different way. Pelagus taught that there are these narrow shafts within our awareness that the divine light shines down on high, that comes in and dissolves the veil that separates heaven from earth. And that it's within these narrow shafts that our awareness of God can be glimpsed moving in life. Pelagus wrote in the 4th century, look at the animals roaming through the forest. God's Spirit dwells in them. Look at the birds flying across the sky. God's Spirit dwells in them. Look at the insects crawling through the grass. God's Spirit dwells within them. It's not only that God's hands fashioned every living creature, but it was that God's breath breathes the life into every living thing. And that breath of life is what makes them beautiful. These words, when I read them, caused me to think back of the day my daughter was born, when I felt God's presence just permeating the whole room and everyone and everything in it. It caused me to think back of the day that I went to see my daughter and my wife's first sonogram. It was the first time I heard my daughter's heartbeat. And as I listened so closely, I could hear the heartbeat of God in her heartbeat. I don't know about you, but whenever I pick up a newborn, I see the life of God in their eyes, moving, stirring in all of its pureness, all of its wonder. I see a miracle before my eyes because I believe that we're all born in that same original virtue, born in the image and likeness of God, our Creator. Yes, I was born, you were born, you were born, you were born, you were born in original virtue, created in the image and likeness of God. That's at least what it says in the Bible. Y'all know that? Genesis 1:27 says it right there. But that image and likeness isn't these fleshly body suits that we wear, but rather the breath of life that God breathes into every living being, as Pelagus wrote about. The breath of God is that glowing, moving, stirring, vibrant energy that I saw at that lake that day. It's what Charles Fillmore wrote about in that series of dreams that he had. God is the sacred breath of life, of wisdom, of love, of creativity, and so much more. Y'all remember the second chapter of Genesis? When God created Adam, he bent down and he scooped up that dust of the earth and he began shaping and forming and he created that, that perfect Adam. And then he took Adam's nose and he breathed in him, he breathed in his nostrils the breath of life, and Adam became a living being. God breathes that breath of life into us in each and every moment. You remember JC's words? That's what I call it, Jesus. Remember JC's words when he was talking to that woman at the well? And he said in John 4:24, those who worship God will worship God in spirit and truth. Right? The word spirit in Latin, Greek, and Aramaic, spiritus, means breath and refers to the breath of life. So Jesus was actually saying, those who worship God will worship God with their every breath and the truth of their being. God breathes that life. As God breathed that life into Adam on that first day, God breathes that life of breath into each and every one of us in each moment. God is breathing the breath into the universe in every living thing in it in each and every moment. I understand the Hawaiian culture or Native Hawaiian spirituality has a teaching quite like that. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that Jesus taught that too? As we breathe in that sacred breath of life, as we breathe it in and cherish it, all of a sudden our inner eye opens up and we see the miracle all around us. Thriving, moving, growing. There are many miracles that we can experience through partaking in that sacred breath. I chose to publish a book about them, about the ones I experienced, at least 18 stories of some of the ones I experienced. And the insights I gained about them and how we can make a more active role, have that become a more active role within our life. The book is called The Miracle Before Your Eyes. And I have some here today, and I really like if you bought some because then I wouldn't have to take them all the way back to Oklahoma with me, figure out how to get them in my suitcase again. But I would also love the opportunity to share some of its teachings with you if I had that opportunity, to allow that to move and grow in a different way, to share its contents and the many other things that I've learned about this spiritual dimension that we call life. But no, I hold a miracle before my eyes. So I invite you to look at somebody close to you and say, I behold the miracle before my eyes. I behold the miracle before my eyes. We're going to enter into a time of prayer and meditation, so I invite you just to take a deep breath in with me and let it out. And to breathe in, God is. And to breathe out, I am. And as we enter into this quiet place, I invite you just to allow my words to be the words of your heart and soul. Dear Lord, creative energy of all the universe, I know that I am right here, immersed within your presence. And that it's in this moment now I breathe in your sacred gift of life. And as I do, I create a sacred space in my heart, in my mind, that I can feel your presence. And as I create that presence, that sacred space, I draw in your kingdom manifests within me and around me. So I pause and I breathe in that gift of life. And I say, move in me, dear Lord, that I might feel your presence. Stir in me that I might know you're alive. Pour out upon me that I might know your living essence in this moment now. So, dear Lord, I breathe in that gift of life. And I feel your living energy, your love move in and through my heart. And I can feel you within my heartbeat. And with each pulse, I feel your living energy flowing out, stirring, moving. I feel your living energy in every cell of my being. I am immersed within your living energy. I am immersed within your life. And as your living energy flows through me, it dissolves every mortal limitation, every appearance of lack and limitation. I am immersed within your life. I am immersed in your love. I am immersed within your wisdom. And I breathe your gift, dear Lord, in each moment, to feel you within each heartbeat. I wait for you. I wait for you. I wait for you. With each breath, dear Lord, your Spirit fills me. And with each heartbeat, your life flows out, filling me with wonder and life and goodness and every good thing my heart longs for. I am thankful, dear Lord. I am thankful. I am thankful. I am thankful. And I say, Amen and Amen.